A bit about me. My name is Michael, and I'm a student at the Teachers University, not a local. I didn't want to live in the dorms and hadn't planned to, but for a while I had no choice. All that time I saved my stipends and side gig cash and finally rented a 2-room place in an old, probably post-war building. The apartment was owned by a woman around 40. I hate agencies and contracts and the rest. Here it was simple. I came, paid, moved in. The woman looked subdued, sad, even nervous. Something was off. Maybe she was sick, I thought. I didn't ask. She was a stranger and her troubles weren't mine. For about 15 minutes she showed me around and explained the meters and little quirks. Then she said something that made me tense up a bit. "Mikhail, when you go to bed, always draw the curtains." She said it like if I didn't, something bad would happen. I didn't take it seriously and asked why. She said the road out front had new street lights, bright as the sun, and the light spills in, makes the room bright as day. Okay, thanks for the heads up. Still, it felt like she wasn't telling me everything. I couldn't answer what exactly until a couple of days later. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After the tour and the cash changed hands, the landlady left. I locked the door and started unpacking. The place clearly hadn't been lived in for a while, so I did a bit of cleaning too. The neighbors were mostly retirees who rarely went outside, though some younger grandmas and grandpas would sit on the benches. When I'd finished the chores, around 6 in the evening, I threw on a jacket and went out. I needed groceries. I'd been on my feet all day and hadn't eaten. There was a small store nearby, so it wasn't far. Dusk was settling in and a feeling I couldn't explain was crawling through me. Something squeezed inside my chest and I didn't like it. After shopping and stepping into our courtyard, I noticed something odd. People in the building were drawing their curtains on every floor. I got curious and walked around to the other side, same thing. Strange. There weren't even street lights there, no light shining in anywhere. Something wasn't right. It seemed trivial. So what if they closed the curtains? But the thought wouldn't leave my head. I took it home with me. First night in the new place, I cooked dinner, fried potatoes in pork fat, a bit of meat. Now that's food. If only I had a girl to share it with. It would be perfect. I'm not much to look at, so that part's complicated. Anyway, I was daydreaming. I ate, opened my laptop, and started roaming the internet. Thoughts about curtains and windows flew out of my head like an employee who'd just cursed out his boss. YouTube swallowed me whole. I watched until around 2 in the morning. I closed the laptop and rolled onto my side, ready to sleep, when the dogs outside started barking. You could hear them even through the closed windows. They were old Soviet-era frames that sounded like they might fall apart. Well, that's what you get for this price, I thought. The aggressive barking slid into whining. What on earth was happening out there? I got up, walked to the window, and pushed the curtain aside. Dogs were running around the yard and whimpering. It wasn't as loud now, but you could still hear it. I said to hell with it, got a glass of water in the kitchen, and went back to bed. Thinking about those damn dogs, I finally fell asleep. In the morning, I remembered my second class started late, so I could snooze a little more. It was frosty outside, of course. It was almost winter. My sleepiness vanished when I noticed the handprint on the window. Excuse me? I rubbed my eyes and woke up fully. In the corner of the room's window on the frozen glass, there was a clear handprint. It was on the outside of the pane, and to my surprise, it had no edges. You know, no smudged borders. I live on the 3rd floor. Surprise slowly turned into worry. The same feeling I'd had coming back from the store last night. I sat in the kitchen for half an hour, drank coffee, and thought about it. Crap, class. I'd forgotten I had to go. I got ready in a rush and flew out the door. The classes were important, so I called a cab. I spent half the day at the university and, as you can guess, forgot about the hand, the dogs, the curtains, everything. Later, I grabbed a beer with a classmate. We sat at a cafe until around 10. I had 2, maybe 3 pints and felt it a bit. We said goodbye. I hopped on a bus and headed home. In the courtyard, I saw the same scene as yesterday. Every window was tightly curtained except mine. I went into the entrance. On the 1st floor, one apartment door stood open and an old woman peered out. She looked at me like I'd salted her borscht with gravel. Then another door opened. An old man leaned out and gave me the same stare. I stopped on the landing, startled. Suddenly, the old man grabbed my jacket. Staring into my eyes, he started muttering nonsense. I'll try to quote him exactly, but no promises. Boy, hey boy, while you're still young, run, close your curtains or we'll all be in trouble. He's coming already. He's close. Run, he's coming, boy, run. His eyes were wild, locked on mine. I froze. The buzz left me instantly. The old woman stood nearby, watching me the same way. I felt their gaze at the back of my head. I was scared, and then the fear flipped into anger. I shoved the old man's hand off and sprinted upstairs. I slammed my door and locked it. Nutcase, I muttered. Stupid old creep. I undressed and sat at the computer. 5 minutes later, I shut it again. Wait. The old man's words crept back in. He's coming. Run. Normally, I'd chalk it up to senile rambling. But after the last 2 days, it felt suspicious. Then the dog started again, much louder than before. Fear began to clamp down on me. I looked out the window. What I saw, to put it mildly, stunned me. Someone was standing in the yard. Well, someone. The head had a strange shape and the arms were too long to be natural. He stood on the playground without moving. I stared and felt like he stared back. I could feel his gaze on me and I hated the way it felt. It was creepy and I couldn't shake it. I couldn't even look away. Who was that? Why was he just standing there? Then he started moving toward the building and stepped under the street lamp. My heart dropped. He moved in this odd, almost dancing way and smiling. The smile was wrong. Maybe that's why it got under my skin. Maybe he was just drunk and wobbling home, I told myself. But something inside kept saying he wasn't drunk at all. He kept that little dance all the way to my entrance. That's when I realized what was wrong, and that this wasn't a person at all, but something. It reached the doorway. I'd been watching from the window the whole time. I should have drawn the curtains like everyone told me, or just gotten out of here, but I didn't. The old man's crazy words turned out true. He stood there under my entrance for a while, then slipped out of my sight. I lost track of him near the door, but only because the layout hides that spot from my window. The courtyard was suddenly very quiet, except for the wind threading through the swings and the thin yelp of a dog that hadn't yet stopped. I stood in the dark with my hand on the curtain and felt like the room itself was holding its breath. The hallway outside smelled like dust and old paint. The elevator cables groaned far below. Somewhere a pipe knocked. I told myself again to quit it, to close the curtains like a sane person and forget the whole thing. But my feet wouldn't move. I kept listening, counting seconds, waiting for the next sound. The scrape of a shoe, a step on the stair, a hand across the glass. Maybe he'd gone into my building, I thought. But no. A minute later, maybe less, a hand slid up against my window. What the hell? Then a face, if you could call it that. What was it doing at my window? How was it holding on? And who was it? Pale skin, a fixed grin, black eyes. It stared at me through the glass and smiled. Then it started tapping. Softly at first, its fist against the pane. The tapping grew harder. Any second and it would punch through. I yanked the curtain shut and bolted for the hall, then heard the window explode behind me and footsteps coming closer. I had to run. I shoved on my slippers, threw on a jacket in 5 seconds, and shot out of the apartment. On the stairs, I heard 2 heavy thuds on my door from inside. Outside, I looked up at my window. That thing was standing there watching me from my own room. Then came the moment that nearly turned my hair white. It climbed out of the window and started scuttling down the wall like a giant spider. I ran, flat out, 10 minutes without looking back. Adrenaline like fire. I must have ended up on another street entirely. I stopped to breathe, turned, and in the streetlight I saw it again, doing that little dance, coming my way. How? I'd run from it. Why was it stuck to me? Or what was this thing? This wasn't real. Fear locked my body. No one was around. No cars, no people. I had nothing left in my legs. I was about to pass out. It kept coming, that same dancing shuffle, slow and steady. I broke and shouted at it. "What do you want from me?" It stopped and stared. "Why are you following me? What did I do to you?" It just stood there, black eyes on me, that dumb smile on its face. The street lamp lit it well. I could see it clearly. Then it started moving again, faster this time. I ran. By some miracle, a police van sat idling around the corner. Maybe they were on a call, I don't know. I yanked the door open and jumped in. "Hey kid, you out of your mind?" The driver barked. "Officers, he's chasing me." "Who's chasing you?" "Around the corner, in a suit." I was gasping. One of them stepped out and looked. "Kid, there's no one there," he said. "You high? And why are you running around in slippers in this cold?" "I didn't take anything." "We'll see." "You're coming for a talk screen." "Fine. Anywhere but here." They started the van and took me in for tests. As expected, they found nothing and they let me go in the morning. I didn't want to go home and it was freezing. I dug up a few crumpled bills in my jacket and called a cab. I had to grab my stuff, laptop, clothes, everything. I packed up the apartment and headed to a friend's dorm. Better to be around people, closer to campus too. I lived quietly for exactly a week. Everything was fine until one evening, cooking in the tiny dorm kitchen, I saw a handprint on the frosted window from the outside, and a dancing silhouette in the streetlight below. To be continued.